Happy Friday morning, Big Orange Nation. This is Frank Rock. This is the House of Orange Sports Channel coming at you. We're one day away from Tennessee, NC State in Charlotte, 7:30, ABC. Tennessee's first big test of the year. It is a neutral site game. I released a video yesterday. I talked about why these neutral site games are important. I've got content coming later this evening about some big time Charlotte area targets for Tennessee in the 2026 class. Of course, they've already got David Sanders Jr. in the fold 2025. You have Faison Brandon, the number one prospect, North Carolina, for 2026 in the fold as of right now. But there's more. There's at least 5 more big-time targets in that area, and that state is loaded for 2026, talking about why Charlotte is so important to Tennessee and why it makes sense for them to play in Charlotte in a neutral site game opposed to going on the road to play a non-conference game. It's a no-brainer to me. But keys to victory, I've narrowed it down to a few on this one. And I made a couple videos this week. One was attacking the 3-3-5 of NC State. And I talked about some keys in that one. And then yesterday, I did Tennessee's defense versus NC State's offense and broke down. We looked at some plays from the NC State Western Carolina game and where some of this played into the equation. But for me on offense, keys to victory. Number one, Dylan Sampson. Everybody's assuming, a big night tomorrow night. Nico's in the Heisman conversation. And he may be. He very well may be. I think people are sleeping on Dylan Sampson and what he's going to do this year. I expect, and maybe I'm higher on him than a lot of people. I'm expecting now Dylan Sampson for him to surpass what Jalen Wright did last year. And I think here's the thing with Dylan Sampson. He's going to carry the ball more, where Jalen Wright was more in a split. He's also going to be that receiver out of the backfield. I think Dylan Sampson's going to have a huge year. And I'm not so sure after this weekend that he's not a dark horse Heisman Trophy candidate. I'm expecting a big game out of Dylan Sampson. But the key for that is the offensive line doing their job. North Carolina State plays that 3-3-5. It normally requires a big nose guard. The two ends are bigger. You've got your 3 linebackers, your nickel, your 2 corners, your 2 safeties. Looking at some of that film on where Western Carolina was able to have success, it was taking some of those guys coming off of the edge. Whether Tennessee was already last week working on running their tight ends as H-backs. So I don't think it's a coincidence what they were preparing for in that game. So with Dylan Sampson, with his speed, you go to Cam Seldon when Sampson comes out, maybe even Deshaun Bishop. I think that's your first 3. If it gets to Peyton Lewis, possibly him. Any of those guys, Sampson and Seldon specifically, if they get to that outside, NC State's defense did not look that fast to me last week, especially on some of the big plays where Western Carolina's quarterback took off for the long game. He was not – he moved okay. He didn't move like Nico can. He definitely didn't move like Dylan Sampson or Cam Seldon can, or, some of your speedy wide receivers. I think Sampson, if this offensive line does its job, has the opportunity to have a big, big day. To me, Cooper Mays is going to be the key to all that. If Cooper Mays can take that nose guard out of the equation, you've got a matchup. You've got a mismatch right there. That's key number 1. Key number 2, the middle of the field. Tennessee's going to have to use the middle of the field. North Carolina State is going to provide Tennessee that opportunity to use the middle of the field. That 3-3-5 is termed as a bend but don't break defense. The way they like to blitz, whether it's with a safety, with a linebacker, they're going to have a harder time with that because Tennessee likes to spread them out so much. To me, Squirrel White, this is a tailor-made game for him to have a big game tomorrow night. Squirrel, I feel, will have one. Interesting stat I saw somebody put today is Holden Stays last year when he was at Notre Dame. I guess NC State had 4 catches for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. Could he replicate? I'm not saying to that extent, but I'm expecting him or Ethan Davis, one, if not both, to do some things across the middle tomorrow night. And in 3, when the opportunity presents itself and Tennessee gets one-on-one on the outside, whether it's Brew, whether it's Chris Brazel, whether it's Dante Thornton, those guys are going to be bigger than NC State's corners. They've got to make them pay. They've got to be able to get separation from them. If they can't get separation, it's going to be tough. But that seam route, when I read on the 3-3-5, it said a quarterback with good accuracy who can throw the seam route can light this 3-3-5 up. They worked on that some last week. You saw that. What was it, second or third possession when Thornton scored on the seam? It's not a coincidence some of the stuff they were working on last week to get ready. People say, well, it was a vanilla offense. They were working on things to get ready for NC State this week. And, of course, Nico doing his thing, being on point. But I'll tell you where Nico, I think he'll have a good day passing. He's going to have some opportunity to run this way. He didn't run much last week, 4 carries, 6 yards, and one of them was because he fumbled the snap. He's going to have some opportunity this week, and I think he'll do some damage as well. I think Tennessee has too much offense for North Carolina State. But with that said, if their line's not getting the job done and you're allowing North Carolina State to get into the backfield, it's going to be a tough night. I expect this line, a veteran line, led by, I hope I said Cooper Mays. I know, 2 days ago I said Cade Mays. So Cooper Mays, I expect them to get the job done on offense. But that's the keys to me. The line, middle of the field, one-on-one on the outside. That's really my 3 keys. I think Nico's going to do his thing. I'm very confident in Nico to get his have his way. Now, he and Sampson, they're both dependent on that line, though. But defensive-wise, Concepcion, you cannot let him kill you. He may get some yards, all right? He plays in the slot. He goes across the middle. He's very good. He's going to be one of the best Tennessee sees all year. Very good. You've got Christian Harrison and Boo Carter on him. Those guys, they're going to have to grow up in a hurry tomorrow night. They're going to have to grow up in a hurry. Minimize the big plays. If he gets some catches over the middle, that's fine. Okay, he's going to get some catches. I don't think it's reasonable enough to expect them to just shut him down. It's an unproven secondary still. They were fine last week. They were fine in the bowl game last year against Iowa. This is a new season, of course, with more players than they had against Iowa, but they're still unproven. And I think the good thing, and I've seen numerous outlets say this, you've got Grayson McCall, you've got Concepcion, they brought in Jolie from UConn. We saw him last year. They're going to have to account for him. They brought in Noah Rogers. They brought in more receivers. I think it's an ideal time to play them just because I don't know if those guys have had the time to gel yet. But they definitely have brought in weapons. So your defensive line, it's the same thing. Your defensive line is going to have to do their job. This is a veteran offensive line of North Carolina State. Tyree West, to me, is going to be the key tomorrow night. I expect James Pierce Jr. to ball out. You're going to have Belton. He's the left tackle. Okay. The right tackle, a little more unproven. That bodes well for a James Pierce Jr., a Caleb Herring, a Joshua Josephs. It bodes well for those guys. What I'm curious to see on that other side, you've got Belton, All-American offensive lineman. Tyree West has been coming into his own. This will be a big, big test for him tomorrow night. And it's a test I'm confident in him at least holding his own with. If you guys remember a couple years ago, Tyree West, when he was recruited, when they got him late, that was a good pickup for Tennessee. Tyree West is starting to come into it. I'm confident in him doing his thing tomorrow night. Your linebackers are going to be responsible for a lot. The tight end, they're going to be responsible for, Concepcion not killing you. And North Carolina State likes to run it with Waters and Smothers, I believe is the other guy's name. I previewed it yesterday, and I know the backup running back can be dynamic for sure. He averaged 13 yards of carry in the opener. Got to be accountable. And then, last, I think your safeties are going to be big in this game. Don't let guys get behind you. Make the open field tackles when they present themselves. If that Tennessee defensive line is getting pressure, if they're rotating in and out, they're getting that pressure on Grayson McCall, North Carolina State's going to have a rough night. But, any secondary, if they're left on an island, they're going to have a tough time with it. But that's my keys. Defensive line, take care of business. That nickel, minimize the damage. All right? Except that Concepcion's probably going to get some catches, maybe a little bit of yardage. That's okay. Just it can't be one of those where he goes for 200, 300 yards receiving. That's a killer. All right? If he's in the 50s, 60s, 70 receiving yards, so be it. Don't let the outside guys beat you. And then, your linebackers, your nickel, your safeties. Your safeties have got to do their job. Is it Will Brooks? Is it Turrentine? Does Jacoby Thomas get some run tomorrow night? If one of these veterans is not getting the job done, Jacoby Thomas or somebody needs to get an opportunity. But, really to simplify it, if both lines do their job, I think Tennessee, again, I'm sticking 45-17 on this one. It could be a lot closer if the lines are not doing their job. And if North Carolina State's lines take over and they gel, they can win this football game. But I seen the line, I think it's up to 9.5 now. I'm recording this on Thursday night, by the way. So if I misspoke on the day at some point, that's why. As of tonight, when I'm recording this, the line's at 9.5 for Tennessee. I think Tennessee smokes that. I really do. But we'll see. 12 o'clock, I'm releasing a video, my 5 to Thrive. You could probably guess where I'm going, but I'm just trying to create content, trying to get this algorithm back going again, because I don't know, it's hit a snag here recently. Maybe it's because of maybe football, but make no mistake about it, the House of Orange is going to be a go-to spot for football as well. We're going to cover it. It's our first year covering it, of course, and we'll keep going. Please leave any comment, any feedback in the comment section. Be glad to have that with you as well. And then later this evening, releasing a video about the Charlotte area and the top recruits in that area, which could be a vital part of Tennessee's class for 2026. I hope you guys have a great day. It's Friday. It is the weekend. Frank Rock, House of Orange Sports Channel. I will see you when I see you. And last but most certainly not least, go Vols.